Will this be the last video on the urinary system? I don't know. Maybe. Let's continue to talk about the control of blood pressure in the human body and flow. Don't know what I mean by flow. The control of blood pressure in the human body by the endocrine system. And at this point, I'm going to remind you of something that we first learned in the cardiovascular system. Do you remember angiotensinogen? This is part of what's known as the RAAS system, and that's sometimes spelled RAS and sometimes spelled RAAS. Today you will learn why it's sometimes called RAAS. Right? So angiotensinogen is made by the liver. It's a prohormone. It's hanging around out there, ain't doing nothing. Okay, it's just made there. But if the kidney decides that your blood pressure is too low, and it measures that with mechanoreceptors primarily around the afferent arteriole, when the kidney decides your blood pressure is too low, it will release this molecule renin. Some people call renin a hormone. It definitely is an enzyme because it is going to cut angiotensinogen and turn it into angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 doesn't do anything really. However, when it goes to the lungs, it'll run into this enzyme. This enzyme is called ACE, and it's known as angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin converting enzyme converts angiotensin. Yeah, good name for it, right? And then you will go from angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is a vasoconstrictor. So if your blood vessel was this big before, now it's whoosh, this big afterwards. And that will raise your blood pressure. Just to remind you, when we were in the cardiovascular system, we learned that there are blood pressure medications that will inhibit ACE. They're called ACE inhibitors. I don't know why I was trying hard to think of that. There are high blood pressure medicines that block the receptor for angiotensin 2, so it can't do its job. There are high blood pressure medications that cause you to make more urine every day that decrease your blood volume, right? Now, I think we only went this far when we discussed the renin angiotensin system the first time, but it's actually known as the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system because the other thing that angiotensin 2 does, is it induces the release of a hormone called aldosterone. So let me write that for you here. Aldosterone. Aldosterone. And where does aldosterone come from? Well, if you've got a very good memory for the endocrine system, you will remember it came from the adrenal cortex and that it is a steroid hormone. And it causes the distal convoluted tubule, particularly, to reabsorb more sodium. And when more sodium gets reabsorbed by the body, then you will end up having more water follow the salt, and you will end up with a larger blood volume. And that is a second way that this renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system increases your blood pressure. It all ties together, okay? Now, I want to make this really explicit because it's a question on the final exam. What is the relationship between urine volume to blood volume and the relationship of blood volume to blood pressure? All right? An analogy, because I'm full of them. If here was a ball filled with blood, if I put more blood into the ball, what will happen to the pressure? Well, it's going to go up, right? More blood volume, more blood pressure, less blood volume, less blood pressure. Great, okay? Now, what does that have to do with urine volume, right? Well, this blood that is circulating throughout your body, this volume of blood, that is where your urine comes from. If your body makes a lot of urine, it is stealing the watery part of the plasma from the blood. So more urine volume, less blood volume, less blood volume, less blood pressure. That means more urine volume, lower blood pressure, right? So, oh, sorry, I thought I'd written that out, but evidently you just got to listen to me say it. So make sure you understand that when your body makes more urine, that will cause you to have a lower blood volume, and less blood volume will cause less blood pressure. And that, by the way, is the reason why there's a whole category of drugs for controlling a patient's blood pressure that simply cause them to make a greater volume of urine. All righty. Urine storage and elimination. Oh, good. I don't think I've got that much to say about them. Please remember that the kidneys make the urine. As a matter of fact, by the time fluid is dripping out of that renal papilla, that's urine. The rest of the way, the ureters are just sending it down to the urinary bladder for storage. The urinary bladder is not modifying the urine. Some people, it's an old wives' tale that if you hold on to your urine, that's what makes your urine dark. No, the urinary bladder is not capable of reabsorbing water from it. So that ain't true. Make sure that you know for your lab final that this area of the urinary bladder is known as the trigone. The trigone in the urinary bladder is made out of a different kind of epithelium. There are no rugae there. And when people have bladder cancer, it's most likely to develop in the trigone. There was something else I wanted to say to you about the lab final. I know we're not there quite yet, but as long as I have a moment, if you provide answers on your lab final that you would have only received from doing an answers.com search or an image search, and by that I mean they're not in your textbook and they're not in your lab manual, then not only will you not earn that point, but you will receive a half-point penalty for using those kinds of answers, all right? So you've got your lab manual in front of you and your textbook. Use those. You won't ever get an extra penalty by using those. All right. I will see you when we talk about the reproductive system.